Hey guys, Charlie Murphy here. Thank you for choosing my video. Today we're playing a session of 2-5 no limit 6 max regular tables on Ignition. Lower F10 table, blind on blind, Jack 4 suited just outside of standard open range for me, but very close. You fold the door open, I don't have a major problem either way. Lower right-hand table, Jack 10 offsuit just outside of standard open range for me for middle position. Once again, pretty close. I think folding is a bit more prudent though. An upper left-hand table against that, in the small blind against the cutoff raise first in. Ace-10 opposite a bit too loose to 3-bet. I'd like to 3-bet ace-jack or better, assuming we didn't get this other crazy action going on here. Similar in the upper right-hand table, middle position opens, folds to us in the small blind. If there's that 3x open, ace-jack opposite a little too loose. I like to go ace-queen or better, 3-bet in about 8% in that spot. These spots are pretty close, though. I've just been erring on the side of folding in the ones that we've seen so far. Excuse me. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise the cutoff with King 10 offsuit. Using something like a 28% raise first in range. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, we'll raise ace-9 using about a 45% range. And lower right-hand table, we'll check range to the big blind. Tabs for half pot. I've got 2 overcards and ace high. I'm going to check call that once. Upper left-hand table, we have under the gun recreational player limping. We're going to isolate from the blinds with ace-10 suited. About a 12% range there. Against the second barrel from the big blind, the lower right-hand table, I'll check fold my ace high. We get called. We get an 8-6-5 two-tone flop. It's the kind of board where I'm not going to be range betting in this spot after isolating another position because it just hits his limp calling range so hard and does not hit my raising range all that hard. I've got a set of eights, but really other than that, no real strong hands, just all the overpairs, but I don't have any sets or straights beyond set of eights. You could have any or all those sets, two pair combos, 9-7 type stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and check range to him on that particular spot. So it's just such a bad board for the raising player. He goes and he bets pretty strong, about 75%, so I'll just check fold my ace high in that spot. Upper right-hand table, middle position opens for 3x. Queen 7 suited a little bit too loose to defend against that, even without the overcaller here from the small blind. The presence of that overcaller makes us just get a bit tighter and play even more robust equity type hands. So Queen 7 becomes a very clear fold at that point. Whereas it's something of sort of a borderline fold, perhaps a defense in your heads up if your heads up against that middle position player open. Upper left-hand table, raise fives from middle position using a 21% range. Upper right-hand table, raise king jack from the button using a 44% range. Short stack who's clicking back for a 3-bet. It's probably reasonably strong here, but really can't fold fives for that min bet, getting something like 5-1, 6-1 on the call. Upper right-hand table, both blinds call. Will not be range betting here in the multi-way pot. I'm going to go ahead and check back king jack on 6-4 deuce. Fives, I can just go ahead and check fold, having not hit my set in the upper left-hand table. Upper right-hand table, it checks to me again. Turn is the queen of clubs. We do have the king of clubs in our hand on that 3-flush board, plus good removal the king, queen king, and queen jack type hand. So I'm going to go ahead and start betting, especially since nobody's shown any desire for this pot so far, most likely following through on the river. As a bluff or a value bet, depending on what the card is, but I'm not going to surrender my king high. I'm not going to not value bet my 4-flush with the king or my top pair with the king if the king hits. Not going to use an overbet size here, use a standard 2/3 type size for the 1-pair hand. We'll go ahead and put that value bet in, try to get called by a mid-pair, queen X type hand. We bet, he calls, our hand is good. He had pocket eights. Games are looking pretty decent here. What happened on that hand? How did King Queen end up all in on that board? Check raised and blasted off after 3-betting pre-flop. A recreational player, probably not an ideal line. Lower right-hand table, get what appears to be a recreational player limp and limping the cutoff. Will isolate from the button with King 9 suited using something like a cutoff raise first in range, about 28%. 10-3, too weak to defend, even blind on blind. For right-hand table, raise the button first in with pocket threes, using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table, raise middle position with ace 9 suited, using a 21% range. Get 3-bet, an appropriate size, about 4.5x from the big blind. We can defend our pairs in this looser formation. Not quite as loose as a small blind 3-bet. We can still defend our pairs. We won't defend quite as wide here as we would against the small blind, but we'll still defend with the threes. Against the 3-bet in position and the recreational player overcall, we'll just go ahead and fold out of position with ace 9 suited versus that 3-bet. In position, or 3-better checks on that 10-jack-8 rainbow board. I'm going to go ahead and check back with my threes. Double checks. And the question is, do I start betting this guy? I think I do want to start barreling now. I'm going to plan to follow through on the river as well, not give up my threes, not let a hand like pair plus open-ender, pair plus straight draw type hand check down. Upper left-hand table, we'll raise middle position with queen 10 suited using a 21% range. Big blind comes along. We get a king 5 deuce rainbow flop. He checks. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet on that particular board in this formation. Calls turn is the 3. Completes the rainbow. I can have the sets. I can have all the sets here. I can have ace-king. I can have ace-4 for a straight. No real 2-pair combos to speak of, however. If I'm going to be bluffing, I guess I'm trying to think what hands make the best bluffs here. Don't have a lot in the way of 4x or 6x. I guess pocket 4s and pocket 6s could function as bluffs. Other than that, I'm pretty short on bluffs, so I'm going to go ahead and use a hand that's got some removal of the top pair as a bluff on the turn here with the queen 10. Hands like queen 10, queen jack are going to be some of the best removal to the king It's your black king queen, king queen, king jack, king 10, those kind of hands. I prefer to have bluffs with more robust equity, hands that are drawing to strong hands, but I just don't really have those in that particular spot, as I don't really have any 4x or 6x. It's not already a pair, so I've got to find some bluffs somewhere. Blocking removal of the top pair is probably a good place to start looking after that. I don't block any of the mid pairs like 7s, 8s, 9s that could be in there that will probably fold to a large turn bet that could definitely check call the flop. Lower right-hand table, middle position raises 3x from the button. I 3-bet my king-queen suited, 3-betting about a 9% range here. Recreational player cold calls out of the big blind. Upper left-hand table, get a min raise from the button. We can defend for a call with king-6 offsuit against that sizing and check range. Pre-flop raiser folds out, so it's just the recreational player and I heads up. Upper left-hand table, he checks back the flop. I'm going to go ahead and start jabbing at that turn small. In the 3-bet pot with ace-king, I'm going to go ahead and put in a small range bet. Recreational player calls. I am not really going to try to fold him off any kind of pocket pair, especially that's now a full house and an overpair to the board. I also do think he can have some worse ace-x in his range, or even just some stupid, Broadway overcard type stuff that called pre-flop. I'm going to go ahead and check this back and evaluate on the river. I'll take a free check down if he lets me have it, but I'm also going to consider bluff catching as well. And I think against that size, we just have to go ahead and bluff catch. I mean, that size is pretty overbluffed. Paired flops, paired turns, low boards staying low, they all indicate bluffiness. I mean, he's going to have some value here some of the time, but it's just going to be too many bluffs to go ahead and surrender my ace-king high. Upper right-hand table, I raise middle position with ace-10 using the 21% range. Big blind comes along, checks to me on jack-9, 8, 2-tone. Got the open and straight draw on the flush draw. I will be putting in my small range bet and looking to barrel turns and perhaps rivers in a lot of cases as well. In that ace-king hand with the recreational player on that low dry board where there was, the trips were on the board by the turn, I can have hands like aces and kings that are going to go into my check back range because they're just so protected. They're not very vulnerable at all, especially aces and to a large extent pocket kings. And I'm going to go ahead and check those back to under-rep my hand, keep my check back line a bit more balanced, and put him in a spot where he's going to just be bluffing into a real strong hand that's never folding, or in the case where he had pocket jacks, betting into a strong hand that's never folding that can even go ahead and raise for value, in the hand, and it's going to put his hands like jacks in a real bad spot there. It's going to give me the ability to bluff raise rivers as well if I have some hands with absolutely no short on value whatsoever if I make the opponent for being weak. So that just because my range is, just because I have a check range there, check back range on the turn doesn't automatically mean that my range is gutted. I can have some real strong hands that go ahead and check that board back. Lower left-hand table, re-raise middle position. A recreational player calls on the button. Another recreational player goes double it up from the small blind. I'm going to go ahead and put in the 4-bet. Pop them up to about 80 with the overcaller in there. Upper left-hand table, I'll check range to the imposition player, recreational player that called me on king 10-3. I've got top two, so be looking to go ahead and put in a check raise. The rec jam's all in. I'll call off with my aces happily. We're against pocket tens and flop top set, so the world is really nice to us right now. We're happy about that. Upper left-hand table, we'll go ahead and put in the check raise now that the recreational player bets about 2/3 into that pot. Not expecting a ton of folds when a rec uses that larger size like that, but that's just fine here when we've got top two. Lower left-hand table, we'll raise middle position. First in with 10-9 suited using 21% range. Our check range gets 3-bet. Let me see here. Just going to go ahead and put in another one. If you can show me a set, so be it. We're just going to go ahead and put in one more. Put in another small 4-bet. Comes along, and we're just going to move it all in here on the turn at this point. He doesn't snap call me, so he didn't find a way to get there with the straight or bottom set. Probably feeling pretty good about this situation now. Huh? Interesting. Bets 3-bets, calls the 4-bet, and then folds on the turn. I guess you probably correctly deduced that I'm not going to be very bluff heavy in that line against a recreational player. So maybe he's maybe he's in some way exploiting me. Maybe he raised to see where he was at. That's not a spot I see very often. I don't face a lot of flop 3-bets. I don't 4-bet the flop very often, but I don't know. Just flatting that small 3-bet seemed like not the move. Out of position where a lot of cards can either kill action or put my hand into a very vulnerable spot. So I think 4-betting is the move there, but not something I see very often. Not something I really see pretty much ever. But we saw it there. Upper right-hand table, raise kings first in for middle position using a 21% range. Couple of recreational players limp on the lower left-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and isolate up with about a 12% range, including my ace-jack. I'm going to use a very large size here, about 150% of pot. We're going to kick that up to about 35. Upper left-hand table, cutoff raises first in, 2.5x from the small blind. I'll go ahead and 3-bet with my king 10 or king 9 suited rather. Use about a 10-11% range in that spot. Lower left-hand table, one of the limpers comes along and calls. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small range bet here on the queen 10-4 two-tone board. Turn is the gin card for us, the king that puts the nuts straight out there and in our hands. I think I'm going to go ahead and just try to bet geometric, get him all in over 2 streets. So we'll go about 60% of pot. Upper left-hand table, we'll raise ace-4 first in on the button using a 44% range. And against the 3-bet from the small blind, that fishy small blind player will go ahead and fold. Fishy, but also kind of spazzy and aggressive. Yeah, you got queen 6 offsuit. Huh? It's the kind of guy, he's here to play some cards. He's here to make some moves. Lower left-hand table, we'll raise King 7 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. Against the in-position 3-bet. Nothing to do but just go ahead and fold that one. Upper right-hand table, recreational player limps blind on blind. I check in with 7-6 offsuit. No need to isolate, or I guess not really isolate, but raise up a hand that week against the blind on blind limper. He min bets. We do have the 7 of hearts in our hand on that monotone flop. However, against such a low flush, I'm not sure I want to be drawing to it. Not really sure if that's the right move or not there. If you're not sure, it's never too bad to just take the 0 EV play and fold. As long as you're not doing it too often, it's going to be okay. Lower right-hand table, get a 3x open from a recreational player in middle position. Small blind calls. I'm going to go ahead and overcall, closing the action with King-Queen offsuit. I'm going to be checking range to the in-position player. A half pot bet from the recreational player from an earlier position. Multi-way, and we don't even actually have a backdoor flush draw. I think we can just go ahead and check fold this one. I think that's probably a little bit too aggressive to check raise bluff there in that spot, especially given it's multi-way and it's a rec. Middle position, raise pocket tens, the lower left-hand table using a 21% range. Recreational player comes along from the big blind, get an ace, king, 6, two-tone board. We'll go ahead and put in a small range bet with the tens. Quickly calls me. No reason to be barreling on this turn. Check back, I'm going to check down or possibly bluff catch the river. He checks again. I'll take my free showdown, and we beat bottom pair, Jack 6. Upper right-hand table, these two guys, I've got them tagged as recreational players, but they're not certainly so. This guy had tagged as a rec from a fairly questionable pre-flop 3-bet defense out of position before the cameras were rolling. I forget why this guy was tagged as a rec initially. Maybe he bought in short before he topped off, but his stats and hand selection hasn't confirmed that he's a poor player in any way, shape, or form. Long story short, this table's not particularly juicy, and I'm going to shuffle it out. Lower right-hand table, raise pocket sixes on the button using a 44% range. And the player that I tagged as a rec because he made a questionable pre-flop 3-bet defense, I barreled off, and he caught me triple barrel bluffing in a 3-bet pot in the very first orbit when I had ace high, a busted flush draw. So while I'm saying he's weak, he certainly took my stack and not vice versa, or saying I thought he was weak. Lower right-hand table will raise king 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Facing a small 3-bet here. I'm a recreational player. I'm not sure. That 3-bet is so small. I'm getting almost 4-1. I don't know that I can fold. Oh, man, this kind of hand that gets you in so much trouble post-flop, though. The price is just too good. I can't bring myself to fold it. I'll be very cautious post-flop with some one-pair type hands, but he also hasn't 3-bet anything yet. He bets about 60% of pot. Go ahead and call that with the top pair at least once. Looking for a king or a 10. 10 is a great card. Couldn't ask for a better card than that. I'll obviously be betting if he checks to me. Be continuing if he bets into me as well, most likely just for a call. That's about 60% of pot again. I call there. I put about 300 in the pot on the river, about 350 behind. I think we can just go ahead and call and this jam all in on the river. He checks. I think the only move is just all in for a slight overbet, about 120% of pot. You know, if he's got an overpair, let him hero call me. If he doesn't, probably not getting too much value anyway. Could have Jack 9, backdoor hearts. I could legitimately have bluffs here. I mean, recreational players probably aren't thinking that deeply about it, but it's entirely possible I get here with weak hands. Not a ton, mind you, but get a min raise from the cutoff in the lower left-hand table. Defend for a call with Queen 10 suited. Check range to the imposition player. I can have a ton of King X in my pre-flop defense range. I can also have a set of fours. I can have kings full of fours. Get a half pot continuation bet. Got some good removal to some of the best kings and some backdoor draws. I'm going to go ahead and put in the check raise bluff. Can you barreling on jacks and spades? Check raise bluff doesn't work, and I don't get a good card from my hand either, so I'll just go ahead and shut down. I can perhaps stab at the river if he checks back, but and I'm against that bet. I'm just going to go ahead and check fold. Appears to be playing some kind of detox-esque type strategy there from what I've seen, though. Put a different color on him to remind me. I think I have a bit of an inclination of how this guy is playing. Recreational player limps, I'll isolate from the cutoff with sixes using something like a middle position open range, about 21%. Upper left-hand table, raise nines from the cutoff using a 28% range. And call by the small blind and by the limper. The upper left-hand table, my nines got 3-bet by the imposition player. Go ahead and defend this for a call. I'm not going to range bet the lower left-hand table, and I'll go ahead and check back my sixes. We get bet into pretty strong multi-way. Just go ahead and defend for a call with the sixes and evaluate on the river. We can check call that small bet on the upper left-hand table at least once with the nines. I'm going to go ahead and let me check that down. The only question is, do I try to get some value out of this thin value bet, like repping some kind of busted draw? Fold the second barrel with the nines. I think we want to check this one back. Pretty close, but yeah. Upper or lower right-hand table, got a 3x open for middle position. I'll go ahead and 3-bet from the button with my pocket kings, using about a 9% range. You get a caller, we get a Jack 10-6 rainbow board. He checks to me. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small range bet. Lower right-hand table, under the gun, opens 3x. I'll go ahead and 3-bet from middle position with ace-king offsuit, using about an 8% range here. Something like pocket nines or better, ace-queen plus king-queen, most of my suited broadways, but not quite all, and maybe ace-5 suited mixed in there as well. Recreational player overcalls, and the initial player goes ahead and calls the 3-bet as well. Multi-way, out of position to at least one player. I'll be checking range here. At 8-6 deuce two-tone board, I've got ace-king high with the backdoor flush draw on the ace. Recreational player checks back as well. Mostly worried about the under-the-gun player having a pocket pair that's good. And so I will fold my ace-king high. I'm not that worried about this player having a strong hand that he's checked back. Got a 3x open from the cutoff on the upper left-hand table. I'll go ahead and defend the big blind with the ace-8 offsuit. Then for a call. He's been pretty tight, actually. I'll actually treat that like a bit tighter position, but I will still be calling with ace-8 suited regardless. Min raise over here. The recreational player calls the small blind. I'll close the action from the big blind with 8-4 suited. I will check call ace high even without any real backdoor draws, at least once on that low paired board. We'll fold the second barrel, though. Turn a small pair here to go with the flush draw. I get led into for a small bet by the recreational player. I will come along for a call against that. Probably turning my 4 into a bluff on the river unimproved. But not necessarily. Against that 9, that's actually a pretty good card to bluff catch. Yeah, especially that very small size is very, very bluffy, especially from recreational players, and they also bluff a lot on paired rivers. Normally bluff catch a hand as weak as lowest pair, but in this particular case I will. Upper left-hand table, get a 3x open from under the gun. I will 3-bet with something like an 8% range from the button, including king, queen offsuit. Lower left-hand table, rec limps the button. I will complete the small blind with 8-10 offsuit. Get a min raise from middle position on the upper right-hand table. I will defend for a call from the big blind with 9-8 suited. Check range of the small blind, the lower left-hand table. Upper left-hand table, 2.5x open from middle position. I will 3-bet my cutoff with ace-queen. I'm going to start jabbing at that pot after the check on the upper right-hand table. Ace-queen spot, I'm 3-betting about 10% range. 9s plus suited broadways, ace-jack plus king-queen, and a couple of wheel aces. Recreational player overcalls the 3-bet. Upper right-hand table, recreational player limps the cutoff. I'm going to go ahead and isolate out of the blinds with queen-9 suited. Flop checks are on, lower left-hand table. I will stab at it small with my top pair and my gut shot. I'm not going to range bet here multi-way in that 3-bet pot. Upper left-hand table, I'll check back my ace-queen high. Lower right-hand table, blind down blind. I will defend the 3x open with ace-9 offsuit. Get led into small, about a quarter pot by that spazzy rec. I am going to float that with my ace-queen high and my gut shot. Lower right-hand table, the small blind checks to me on the ace-6-4. I'm going to go ahead and stab for half pot. Let's see here, and I get raised. I'm just going to go ahead and fold my 8-10 against this recreational player. We make the nuts straight, but there is a flush possible on the board now. He goes ahead and bets small. I think I want to put in a value raise here. I think I'll just go half pot. I don't need to blow him off of non-flush hands. Want to get an easy call down here with my straight and pick up some value. He doesn't even think. He beats me into the pot with his call, and he had king-queen, so his top pair with that, he had the queen of clubs, so he blocked the straight and the flush. Pretty reasonable bluff catcher if you're looking for bluff catchers in that spot. That means he cold called a 3-bet with king-queen offsuit, which that's his mistake. His post-flop play isn't necessarily bad. Leading small for value in the multi-way pot on the turn with top pair. And then sort of a blocker value type bet on that river. Also pretty reasonable. I'm not sure if calling the raise is great because I don't know that I'm really going to bluff raise that guy all that often in that particular spot. But yeah, the pre-flop play is where the big mistake was from that guy. The post-flop play really wasn't all that bad. Short stack with some limps on his resume. We can go ahead and tag him as a rec. Upper right-hand table, open limps to cutoff. I'll complete the small blind with queen 5 suited. I'll check range out of the small blind. I'll check fold my queen high backdoor flush draw and jack 8-7 rainbow. Oh, we lost the rec at this table. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind, will open king 9 suited using a 45% range. Big blind calls, and we'll check range to the big blind. Board is ace-9-6 rainbow. With second pair, top a kicker, and the backdoor flush draw. He checks back. Turn is the deuce. Deuce of diamonds. I'll go ahead and start jabbing at that pot small. If he called, river is interesting on blank cards, whether it's better to check and try to get to showdown or induce bluffs, or whether it's better to put in a thin mergy value bet. I think most players probably don't value bet mergy thin enough in those spots, so I've been trying to do more of that. So I think bet is a bit better, but I do feel like he can have a lot of weak ace-x that doesn't bet the flop. He's smart enough to check some of that back to under-rep them. Not sure if he has enough weaker pairs that call down there with that ace out there on the board. It probably doesn't make a big difference one way or the other, though, I'm guessing. Probably pretty close either way. The min raise, I would have defended the 8-10 offsuit, but against the raise and the 3-bet, I'll play cold 4-bet or fold, and ace 8-10 offsuit is just very clearly going to be in the fold range. Lower right-hand table, button opens for 3x. Go ahead and 3-bet from the small blind with ace-jack, using about a 14 to 15% range, something like ace-jack plus king-queen, pocket sixes, suited broadways, suited aces, 9x type hands. Interesting board here. I think that's probably supposed to be a range check, so I just don't really hit that flop that hard. I guess I can have a set of sevens, but I won't have the other sets. I won't have any straights. Won't have any two-pair combos. Do have the overpairs. Just go ahead and check fold ace-jack, no backdoors in that spot. Lower left-hand table, raise king-jack from middle position using a 21% range. Lost my rec friend at that table as well, so the tables are breaking up a little bit. We'll have to find some new ones to replace them. Called in position by a couple of players. I'll go ahead and check range on that jack 8-6 two-tone board. The cutoff quickly checks. Button checks back. Turn is a 7. Coordinates with the board decently hard. Hands like 9-10 and pocket 7s just made very strong hands. I've still got top pair. Nobody's shown any interest in the pot so far. I'm going to go ahead and start jabbing that at small. If I get raised by one of these guys, I'm just putting my hand straight into the muck as fast as I can. Now, neither of these guys were really showing much propensity to cold call a lot pre-flop outside of the blinds. So I think their range is going to be concentrated more towards pairs. I could see this guy having any of those lower sets in his range there, or even a hand like 9-10. I think the mature move is just to go ahead and fold when you get raised multi-way there when there's so many ways you're crushed. I can still have 9-10 and all the sets in my range too after range checking the flop, so I'm protected. I don't need to get married to my top pair. Big blind 3-bets my cutoff open. In the lower right-hand table, we'll just fold ace-9. New table has a couple of 30 blind stacks. That looks promising, so we'll hang out there for a couple orbits and see what's what. Or right-hand table, raise pocket 7s under the gun using an 18% range. Interesting pot size raise from the cutoff over here in the new table, upper right-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and tag him as a suspected recreational player just based on that pre-flop pot mashing. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise the cutoff first in with Queen Jack offsuit using a 28% range. Get called by the big blind and an ace-4-4 rainbow flop. I'll be putting in a small range bet if he checks to me. He does. We take it down. Upper left-hand table, blind on blind, 9-4 offsuit, too weak to defend, even blind on blind. Upper right-hand table, we'll raise middle position with pocket threes using a 21% range. We'll shuffle the upper left-hand table out as our recreational player friend has left us, and we'll look for greener pastures. Lower right-hand table, cutoff, we'll raise first in with Jack 10 using a 28% range. Table seems to be junk at this point too, so we're going to look to replace it. Recreational player limps the button. On the lower left-hand table, we'll isolate up for a large size, 150% of pot, using about a 12 to 13% range. Pocket eights are better. Ace 10, King Jack are better. Any two cards that are 9 or higher and suited, something like that. Get called by the big blind and the limper. I will check range out of position multi-way. At 10-7-5 two-tone board. Goes ahead and he bets out half pot, and there's a call. I think I can just go ahead and safely fold my nines as that pot starts bloating up. Outside chance that these guys aren't ahead of me quite yet, but probably not a great one. Goes ahead and tries to put the rec in against the flush draw and trip 7, so I actually was in the lead on the flop. Upper left-hand table, raise pocket eights from the cutoff using a 28% range. I do think folding was correct, even though that we saw that we were against ace 7 and ace queen of spades. I think folding nines is still the move in that formation. That's set up for that sizing. Upper right-hand table, raise 9-8 suited from the button using a 44% range. Small blind 3-bets me, 4.5x, very loose formation. We can continue very wide in this particular spot against 3-bets, including with our suited connector and gap type hands. We'll go ahead and defend that for a call. Lower right-hand table, cut off 3x open. I'll go ahead and 3-bet with ace-queen from the big blind, using about a 10% range. Upper right-hand table, he goes ahead and checks to me, so I'm going to go ahead and stab for half pot with my flush draw on that ace-queen-7 two-tone board. It check called, but we turn the flush card. So I'm going to go ahead and continue betting with my made flush. I'll use a half pot sizing on that flush closing card. And he folds to the second barrel. Lower left-hand table, we'll raise the cutoff first in with ace-queen, or middle position rather, with ace-queen using a 21% range. Very promising table with all these players playing short or otherwise giving us indicia of recreationalness. Lower right-hand table, raise 10-8 offsuit from the button using a 44% range. Get called by the big blind and 7-5-3 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. Potential recreational player here having bought in a little bit shorter than full stack, or at least playing a bit shorter than full stack. Goes ahead and check raises me half pot. I think I can just go ahead and fold this. I had a backdoor flush draw to go with that. I would float, but I'm not going to float 10-8 on 7-5-3 without it. I think that's a little too loose. Does coordinate with that board for some backdoor straight draws as well, but I think I need a bit more than just 10-8 offsuit to go ahead and float there. Lower right-hand table will raise ace-king from middle position using a 21% range. We get 3-bet, large sizing, almost 4x, 3.5x, almost 4x by the in-position player. We're just going to go ahead and 4-bet ace-king and get this in, assuming everyone else folds and nothing unusual happens here. Four-bet queens plus ace-king to get it in. Maybe ace-queen offsuit is my bluff for balance purposes. Hands like jacks, tens, ace-queen suited, king-queen suited, something like that can be a defense range for a call, but really not much looser than that for that sizing out of position. Upper right-hand table, a recreational player limps the button. We check in the big blind with Jack 8 and check range on the 7-6-5 rainbow board. The rec goes ahead and checks back. The turn is the 4, giving us the straight on the 4 straight board. I'll go ahead and start jabbing at that pot small. Looking to follow through on the river for value. Blind on blind, no need to open king deuce. Just go ahead and fold it. Upper left-hand table on the button, we will open queen 9 offsuit using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table, raise middle position with king 7 suited using a 21% range. Short recreational player calls me in position. That is a somewhat short big blind player. Lower right-hand table, the cutoff opens 3x. I will defend the big blind with ace-jack. Check range to the in-position player. Upper left-hand table, I'll check range to the in-position player multi-way after raising pre-flop. At a 3x open, blind on blind in the upper right-hand table, I'll defend for a call with 4-7 suited. I will defend in the lower right-hand table. I will check call with my second pair top kicker against that 1/3 flop c-bet. Blind on blind, upper right-hand table, I'll go ahead and stab for half pot. Second barrel, continue to call with ace-jack. Check on the river. I'm going to go ahead and jab small for value with my second pair and my flush draw on the upper left-hand table. And I think nothing to do but just go ahead and check call with my aces up here against that half pot bet. Get check raised here. We do have the nut flush draw. I think I'll go ahead and continue with that. I'll fold the gut shot after I got check raised. Love to just check down my king. He's going to let me. Oh, and his 2 pair were counterfeited. It's a greasy river. Lower right-hand table, raise ace-queen from the button using a 44% range. Little loose to isolate 6-5 suited against that short stack limper in middle position when we're on the cutoff. Not too far off. I think it's a little out of line. If guys are not 3-betting you enough, you can probably get away with it. This stack was deeper. I'd like it more. Get called by both blinds to the lower right-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and not range bet, and I will check back the ace-queen on the king 5-4 rainbow flop. Pretty decent turn for me. Gives me that gut shot to the Broadway with that 10 of diamonds peeling off. I'm going to go ahead and start jabbing at this pot small. If it checks to me again, gets that pretty healthy size bet from the big blind. However, I think I can just go ahead and fold my gut shot. Upper right-hand table, raise ace-queen from middle position using a 21% range. Lower right-hand table, raise pocket tens from the cutoff using a 28% range. Two X open from the button on the upper left-hand table against from the big blind. It can probably defend queen 6. It's on the cusp. I think it's going to be okay. Lower right-hand table, we get 3-bet from the big blind for a small size. We can go ahead and defend for a call with pocket tens against that. Upper left-hand table, the big blind checked back on the 8 ace 4. A turn is the 5 of diamonds, giving us a gut shot and a small flush draw to a 4 flush. We'll go ahead and jab at that pot small. Lower right-hand table, he does not continuation, but in queen jack 4, I'm happy to go ahead and check back my tens and keep that pot smaller with my strong but marginal hand. Going to continue following through with the bluff with my queen 6 busted draw. Take it down. I'll fold the tens. I'm not real sure what I'm supposed to do in that spot, though. That might be a spot where I can continue. I just not real sure what to do in some of those check back lines. Lower right-hand table will raise queen jack from the middle position using a 21% range. In position player calls. We'll check to him on the 7-5 deuce two-tone flop. Goes ahead and stabs at that pot small. I think I can float with the overcards and that jack of clubs in my hand at least once. I can credibly have hands like ace-jack, ace-queen here as well if he checks back. I feel like my river bluff will be a very reasonable thing to do and a very credible, if he even has anything at all. Against the second barrel, I'll just go ahead and fold, though. Queen 8 suited slightly too loose to open for middle position, but not by much. And I've got such a weak fishy table, I want to get in this pot with these fishy blinds before they find a way to dust off their stack to somebody else. So I'm going to be a slightly loose there with my open. Big blind comes along, checks to me on ace, king, 9, two-tone. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. Calls. Turn is the 7 of clubs, a flush closing card on the turn. I don't have any relevant suits in my hand. I'm just going to go ahead and check back my queen 8. Perhaps bluff the river. Goes ahead and bets into me small. Against that size, I can go ahead and put in a bluff raise, which is what I'm going to do. Lower right-hand table, get a min raise from the cutoff. I go ahead and 3-bet from the button with king, queen suited, using about a 15%, or I'm sorry, about a 13% range there. We get a queen high flop, queen 7 deuce two-tone. He quickly check calls, turns the 10 of spades, putting the second flush draw up there. Go ahead and bet pot, set me up for a pot-sized river jam. Get a 2.5x open from the cutoff, fishy big blind, button calls. I'll go ahead and close the action from the big blind with the call for the ace 10. Lower right-hand table, raise the cutoff with king 8 suited first in, using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, the flop checks around. Turn is the 6 of clubs. Board king 10, 8, 6. A backdoor flush draw has appeared. I'm going to go ahead and lead out small with my second pair for value and also to deny some equity. It raised very small. Against that small raise, I feel like I need to come along and call that. He bets 16 into 62. I mean, yeah, I can't really fold pretty much anything for that. Continue checking. Rivers are pretty good, and then it makes 2 pair for me. Check to him. Upper right-hand table, raise middle position, 3x open from the button with ace-king offsuit, using about a 9% range. Lower left-hand table, I raise middle position with king-queen suited, using about a 21% range. Get called by the small blind and the big blind. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small bet with my 2 overcards and the second nut flush draw. This guy bets about a third of pot. I've got aces and 10s. I'm just going to go ahead and call that down. He's got 8-6 for a small 2 pair. We outdrew him on the river because he screwed around and raised too small on the turn. I'm happy about all that. Upper right-hand table, we get called. We get a monotone flop, jack 5 deuce. I've got ace king with the relevant king. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet in position. Lower left-hand table, get check raised very small. Got to call 15 into 72 with my 2 overcards and my flush draw, so I'm coming along. I'm going to go ahead and check back the king of hearts as I want to keep that pot a bit smaller. If I had the ace of hearts with the naked ace of hearts, I'd be blasting away. I'll check back the king of hearts. We get led into now on the turn here on the lower left-hand table for a half pot bet. I've got top pair now on that king along with the flush draw, so I'm going to continue. I'm rivered the king. I'm going to go ahead and try to sneak in a value bet here with my top pair, top kicker. I could do this with all my busted air, and he quickly folds out. I get check 2 with that flush closing river with my king-queen hand, the lower left-hand table. I'm just going to move all in for about 2/3 of pot. And we pick the pot up with the fold. Upper right-hand table, raise ace-king from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table will open ace-6 suited on the button using a 44% range. The upper right-hand table with ace-king, the big blind comes along and calls, checks to me on the king 8-3 rainbow. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. We get called. Turn is a great card for us. The board pairing card king gives us trips top kicker now. I'm going to go ahead and use the overbet or check sizing here, as I don't really want to be betting too many hands that aren't trip kings or underfools. I'm going to use the overbet size. I think I could check back and trap with some quad kings, maybe some weaker trip kings. But with ace king, I just want to go ahead and hope if he gets sticky with the mid pair or he's got a dominated king that he just starts putting all that money in. That board is so dry, there's not much in the way of natural bluffs, so I think I'm going to be using hands like queen, jack, queen 10, jack 10 sort of combos, things with good removal to the best possible trip kings as my bluffs. Lower right-hand table, raise queen, jack, first in on the button using a 44% range. Really not much going on at this table, so we're going to go ahead and shuffle that one out. Get called by both blinds. Got a 10-6-6 rainbow board. I will not be range betting multi-way, so I will check back my king-queen. Could be betting my trip sixes, my good 10x or better, my over pairs. I've got various gut shots. You can see some argument for betting queen jack because you've got removal to some 10x, and you can turn some backdoor draws. You've got some overcards. But I think I plays fine as a check back as well. I don't think it makes a very dramatic difference one way or the other against most opponents which way you go on that. I think either is defensible. They will telegraph the strengths of their hands more than they realize on the turn based on whether or not they bet and the size they choose. If I check back and on that, and say we get a nuts blank turn like that offsuit 4, it completes the rainbow and they check to me again, I can just go ahead and start stabbing at that pot and plan to follow through on the river at that point. But it also safely fold if I'm seeing some pretty healthy sized bets, as we saw from the small blind leading there about 2/3 a pot. So you can find a way to react based on them inadvertently telling you where they're at in that check back line when you're multi-way. Upper left-hand table will raise sevens on the button using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table, a couple of short stack Rex limp. I will complete the small blind against them both with king 7 suited. We'll check range out of the small blind here. Upper left-hand table, blind on blind. We'll raise King 10 suited using a 45% range. Blind on blind, upper right-hand table, a short stack opens 3x. I can defend that with pocket 5, certainly for a call. No reason to raise, especially against that stack size. He checks to me on the 9 deuce deuce two-tone. I'll go ahead and stab for half pot for value and to deny equity from overcards. You can get value from ace high, a couple of weaker pocket pairs, flush draw type hands. More so for equity denial, I think there though. Just he's got a hand like Queen Jack. It can just make him fold it and set his equity to 0, his share of that pot to 0, and take the whole thing. That's not a bad result for that situation. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind. I'll raise Queen Jack suited. Get a roughly 2.5x open from the button. I don't defend the big blind with every ace-x combo against that size. I tend to fold a couple of them like ace-deuce, ace-3. That's pretty close, though. Certainly a justifiable defense if it's something you want to do. Lower right-hand table, 2.5x open from middle position. I will go ahead and 3-bet with ace-queen using an 8 or 9% range, something like pocket 8s plus, ace-queen plus, suited broadways, and a couple of wheel aces, suited wheel aces. Upper left-hand table, button, we're going to open 9-8 offsuit using the 44% range. Lower right-hand table, get a 3x open from middle position. I will 3-bet from the cutoff with king, queen suited. using about a 9% range. Recreational player min raises the middle position. In the upper right-hand table, I will 3-bet him with ace-king offsuit, probably using about a 10% range against that size, throwing a few more hands against that smaller size in the potentially weaker range, especially with this guy having been so active so far pre-flop. I think it's okay to have a few more hands in the 3-betting range there. Flop Broadway. Go ahead and put in the small range bet. Got him on the hook so far. I think I want to put him on the installment plan, get him over 2 streets here, try to get the rest of that money in. Probably go about half pot here, give me 240 on the river with about 130 effective. That seems pretty reasonable. Upper left-hand table, min raise, and overcall from 2 weak players. I will defend the big blind, mostly because it's the weak players more so than the sizing. With ace-5 offsuit. And he goes ahead and check raises me. I guess we probably just put this all in here at this point. He picked up a spade draw, forced him to put the money in with the spades. And get queen 10, 2 pair. Not an unreasonable way to play it post-flop. His pre-flop play was pretty bad, but post-flop, once you hit 2 pair, what are you going to do, right? We get a pretty large size, then an overcall. I'm going to fold my weak ace against that sizing, especially with the overcall. Get a 3x open, blind on blind, upper right-hand table. I'll be defending that with pretty much every suited combo. Maybe fold a couple, but these suited gapped cards, 6-2 suited, I can defend that for a call. And that was against 2 small flush draws in that spot, so I folded the winning hand, but c'est la vie. I'll defend here with my deuce against that small bet. Lower left-hand table, fold king 7 from the button. Probably slightly looser than hands I want to open. Usually open king 8 or better. I get another small bet on the ace, ace, deuce, jack. I've picked up the backdoor flush draw, so I'm happy to continue calling for a small bet. I would have checked back had he checked to me. Probably bluffed some of my heart draws that I turned a backdoor heart draw with on that turn card. With the deuce with the smidge showdown value, I think is better to check, and I think I'll just take my showdown here, hoping I'm against some BS. So, and I was against pocket threes, so the deuces, like I said, they have a smidge of showdown value, but not a lot, and that kind of stuff right there is a prime example of why. Lower right-hand table, raise 10-8 suited for middle position using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table will raise ace-8 from the button using a 44% range. Lower right-hand table will get a king h7 rainbow board. I will check range to that in-position calling player. A pretty good check call hand here. Second pair, backdoor flush draw. Check it. Turn is the deuce of clubs. Doesn't improve me in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to go ahead and continue checking here. Not going to try to get thin value with the 8, at least not on the 9 card. This might be a kind of spot where I can actually go ahead and bluff catch, though. Let's take a look and see. Oh, he turned that 9. Glad he didn't try to value bet me thin, because I was definitely thinking about calling down there in that line. Lower left-hand table, raise Jack-9 suited, first in from middle position, using a 21% range. This guy's a little bit questionable to be calling raises in position with Queen-9 suited. I just don't think that's really a winning play. He should be playing 3-bet or fold for the most part, and if he is having calls in his range, he shouldn't be that willy-nilly. Not that Queen-9 suited's a bad hand, but it's not really a good enough hand to justify calling and risking being squeezed behind and paying the rake, not having a chance to pick up the pot pre-flop. Get a 3x open, blind on blind, lower right-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet with 9-7 offsuit. Let's use a couple of these janky offsuit hands, not quite good enough to call and defend with as 3-bet, you know, as bluff, so to speak, in these blind battles. 9-7 is a pretty good combo for that, based on the idea that I'm going to call 9-8, 8-7, but not call 9-7. They use hands like 9-7, 8-6 as pre-flop 3-bets instead. Lower left-hand table, it's this limp pot. Everyone checked around. Ace 10 9, turn is the jack. I've got Queen 7, so I block various straights, have open and straight draws. I'm going to go ahead and start jabbing at this pot and probably plan to follow through on the river, whether I whiff or whether I hit. Upper right-hand table, blind on blind. I'll raise Ace 6 using a 45% range. Check range to the big blind on that Ace Jack 5, two-tone flop. He checks back, turn is the 8. I'm going to start jabbing at that pot small with my weak top pair. I got one caller. I brick out on that Ace Jack, Ace 10 9 Jack board with 9 on the river. I'm going to go ahead and continue bluffing with my Queen 7. And on the upper right-hand table, I'm going to go ahead and put in sort of a finish mergy value bet with my Ace 6. If I get raised, I can instantly fold. I don't want to let some kind of middling Jack X check back. I want to justify all my nonsensical bluffs I'm going to show up there with in my very wide range. And I just think there's more value in betting, even if it's not all that much value, as opposed to checking and try to play the check call game and guess where he hit bluff-wise and all that. So pretty close, but I think merging there for a thinnish value bet is better, even though the board ran out to close some straights and flushes. Upper right-hand table, 3x open from the cutoff. I will 3-bet him from the button with Ace Jack offsuit, using about a 12% range against that 3x open. You get called, you get an 8-8-7 rainbow flop. I don't have too much 8x or 7x in my range, though I do have pocket 8s and pocket 7s. That's a small portion of my range on that board, of course. I do, of course, have all the overpairs. I've got Jack 10, 10, 9 for various straight draws. I'm going to go ahead and put in that small range bet. Lower left-hand table, I will open Queen 9 suited from the button using a 44% range. Check raise small. Oh, yeah. That check raise, that small check raise, what are we going to do? Lower left-hand table, go ahead and range bet against the big blind on Queen 5-3. I feel like I have to float that small check range with Ace-Jack here. I'm not going to really put in too much more money if he tries to make me, but I do have to at least float that with Ace-High and the overcards. Backdoor straight draws. Lower left-hand table, we get check called. Turn is a 5, board pairing card that also puts a backdoor flush draw out there, which I have. I think I want to go ahead and use overbets or checks. I'm going to go ahead and put the Queen 9 flush draw hand into the overbet line. He continues barreling here. I'm going to go ahead and fold my Ace-Jack at that point. Got 8, 7s, 9s, Jack 10, various overpairs. And I just backdoored the club flush draw here. As long as he's not trapping me with the boat, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. Given that it's actually not the nut flush, it's the second nut flush draw, you know, and that board's paired as well. This hand is not stone cold locked, but pretty good. I'm not going to use the overbet size, what I'm getting. I'm going to go ahead and use the 2/3 type size for value. Let a suspicious King X or a 5X call me down. Upper left-hand table, a recreational player limps middle position. I will isolate from the cutoff with something like my middle position open range, about 21%, including ace-queen offsuit. Lower left-hand table, I will raise the cutoff first in with king 6 suited using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, I'll raise middle position with ace-king suited using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table, I'll raise middle position with ace-king suited using a 21% range. We get 3-bet by a player who's been aggressive 3-betting. He has already done that 4 times out of 15 opportunities, 57-41 pre-flop. I'm obviously not folding. I'm just going to go ahead and 4-bet this. I really can't 4-bet and fold with any part of the hands in my range. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a jam 4-bet size. I'm either going to jam or call or fold. Not going to 4-bet small. Ace-king suited is going to go best in the jam range, so we'll just jam him in there, either make him fold or make him call off with something dominated. Lower left-hand table, I raised king-jack under the gun using an 18% range, get 3-bet in middle position, and I will just go ahead and fold that and not think twice. No reason to do anything but fold on that spot with king-jack out of position in a very tight formation. In case I wasn't clear, the reason why I can't 4-bet small, I'm only going to 4-bet jam, call, or fold is because this guy is only playing about 55 to 60 blinds deep to start the hand. The time I go ahead and 4-bet him small, I'm pot committed. So there's really no sense in doing that. And he calls me off with queen-jack suited. He flops top pair. We both have the flush draw. I pull ahead with the ace, and I hold on the blank river. Okay, a 2.5x open from under the gun. A recreational player calls on the big blind. I've got jacks in the small blind, so I'm going to go ahead and squeeze. Squeeze a pretty standard 3-bet versus under the gun range. They're about 7%. Upper right-hand table, I'll raise king 9 on the button using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table, a recreational player comes along from the big blind. I'll go ahead and put in the small range bet on jack 7-4 two-tone. Upper right-hand table, when I get 3-bet with my king 9, I'll just go ahead and fold out against the small blind. No need to defend the hand like that against the 3-bet. I'm really happy to get this guy out of there and go ahead and play against the recreational player if I can. Didn't go the way I wanted. However, I do think I have a hand that can go ahead and call the 4-bet. Can't call too many four bets here. Can trap with aces, can also defend queens and jacks, maybe ace queen suited. I just ship the ace king and pocket kings in. We call and then we check to him on that 6-5-3 two-tone flop. He goes ahead and he bets 1/3. On a board like this, I think I want to check jam my jacks, my queens, my aces, and my ace queen of diamonds. Maybe if I think he's particularly loose, I can do ace queen with the backdoor flush draw. Doing it and just hoping I'm not running into an overpair. I'm running into ace king, which snaps me off. Okay, even better. Ace king, no draw. When I got quickly called, I figured I was behind, and that's just part of the game where his four-bet range is going to have some ace-king that I'm ahead of and some overpairs that I'm behind, and I'm playing that way where I call the four-bet pre-flop to pick up the c-bet from the stuff where I'm behind, or pick up the c-bet from the stuff where I'm ahead that either folds out, so I don't just let him get me in there 50-50 against ace-king and way behind when I've got, a jacks versus an overpair. I guess occasionally I will get an ace-king that just thinks I'm full of crap and calls me down with ace-king high, and I'm actually value shoving. So that worked out really nicely. I don't expect to have that happen every time, but I'm happy it happened that way here for sure. I'll take as many of those as I can get. It's about time to wrap up the session, but the tables seem pretty good, so I'm going to stretch this out a little bit longer. Not too long, but I'm going to stick around for a little bit. Now I've got a seat on a rec there, seat on a rec there. Recs galore on the lower left-hand table. Got good seats on them too. Yeah, I don't know if this guy, he did limp, but he's only limped once. Well, he's potentially a fish. Lower left-hand table, I'll raise Jack Queen suited from middle position using a 21% range. I really don't like this guy's ace king high called on there on that flop. In some cases, it makes a lot of sense, but just thinking about how tight my four bet defense range is going to be in that particular, tight under the gun raise first in formation, I just don't have that many hands that can be draws. I mean, you heard me talking about my range. I was going to check jam on that low flop there against him, and it was going to be the trapped aces, which I guess he doesn't give me credit for having, and he also blocks with ace king, and my queens and my jacks, and then my only other hand left in my calling range is ace queen suited. And I'm not gonna jam all those. I'm gonna jam the flush draw one. The flush draw one's obviously not even all that far behind the ace king high. I've got 12 live out, so it's about 60-40. And maybe I jam ace queen with the backdoor flush draw, but that seems a little bit unlikely in that formation. So I really don't think his ace king high called on there is all that good. I think that's might be something a solver has you do, just so you don't get bullied off of your hands by people jamming draws. But I just don't have enough draws in that particular formation. I think the ace king called on there is a mistake. The pre-flop raise first in and the four bet were good, and I don't even mind the continuation bet on the flop. I think against the check jam, I think he just gets himself into trouble if he calls that down. Upper left-hand table will raise pocket kings in middle position using a 21% range. Get 4-bet by the big blind. I'm just going to, or 3-bet. I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet. King, king, ace, 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 king suited, and then ace, queen offsuit as a bluff. He jams. I will call off. Right into ace, king, and we don't win that flip, but that's the way it goes. Or not really a flip, but we don't win that all in. But got the money in good, happy about that. Lower left-hand table, a 3x open for middle position. I'll go ahead and 3-bet from the cutoff with pocket nines. Using about a 9% range there. Going to 3-bet nines or better. Most of my suited broadways, ace, jack plus, a couple of suited wheel aces. Queen, queen, 9, flap the underfool. Go ahead and put in a small range bet against his check. No action on that one, but that's okay. On the left-hand table, raise ace-10 under the gun using an 18% range. Get 3-bet by the small blind and just go ahead and quickly fold. It's one of the weaker hands in my under the gun raising range, so it's just going to be an easy fold against the 3-bet. Upper left-hand table, raise jack-7 suited first in from the button using a 44% range. Get called by a very short stack small blind player, or big blind player. At an ace-7 two-tone flop, I'll go ahead and put in the small range bet. Upper left-hand table, raise ace-jack suited first in from the cutoff using a 28% range. Big blind comes along, get an 8-6-5 two-tone flop. And checks to me. Go ahead and put in a small range bet. Get called. Turn is the 5 of clubs. Let's see, I could have various 9x, 7x type hands that I can be barreling with, as well as spades. No reason to continuation but ace-jack, or barrel the turn rather with ace-jack. I'll go ahead and check that back, evaluate the river. It's a great river. Be looking to value bet if he checks to me, and I'm looking to call down or maybe even value raise if he bets into me. Now he overbets. I don't think a raising is on the table any longer, but now it's just a question of does it make any sense to think about folding this hand? I really can't imagine that it does. Let me just think about it for a little bit. And there's I'm upper left-hand table will raise nines from middle position using 21% range. Upper right-hand table, min raise blind on blind, will defend for a call with 10-8 offsuit. He checks to me on the king 7-3 two-tone flop. I'll go ahead and stab for half pot with my 10 high. Do have some backdoor draws. A nine's a good card. A spade helps me pick up some equity. Recreational player pops me up from 1250 to 20. He's only got 55 total behind him. Only got 11 blinds. I've got pocket nines. I don't think there's anything to do but go ahead and just make this guy get it all in. Let's go ahead and jam all in with the nines. It's king 4, get the money in good. Upper right-hand table, raise blind on blind with 10-8 suited. Lower left-hand table, raise middle position first in with queens using a 21% range. Blind on blind use about a 45% range. I will check range to the big blind on that 10-5-4 two-tone board. Upper left-hand table, I'll raise middle position with fours using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table, I got called by a big blind player, 8-7-5 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. The blind battle on the upper right-hand table, we get another 10. I now have a trip 10 hand. I'll go ahead and jab at that pot small. We get check raised by the big blind on the 8-7-5 board. I'm going to call at least once with my overpair here. I'm going to behave cautiously on a board so coordinated. He goes ahead and bets 60 into 90 on the 4 straight. I think I just go ahead and fold my queens at that point. I think the flop, it should be defended, but against on the turn, it's a very easy fold. He's more interesting if it's a blank turn where I'm not really sure where I'm at. I did fold 6-9 offsuit against a button min raise. That was probably a mistake. Got too ahead of myself with too much action on too many tables and made a small pre-flop mistake. But yeah, you can defend that against that size and that loose formation. Okay. This table up here is busted out. The table on the table on the lower left, the guys that are Rex maybe aren't actually Rex after all. Lower left-hand table, this guy may not be a Rex. This guy probably is. And we only really have one more super ideal spot with a true fish that we have immediate position on. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the session down now like I've been planning to do. Ran it a bit longer, but as my tables are breaking, I think I'll go ahead and take a break myself. Lower right-hand table, middle position opens 3x. I will 3-bet from the big blind with my king-queen suited, using about an 8% range there. Lower right-hand table, raise fours first in from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Upper right-hand table, raise aces from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, raise king 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower right-hand table, the big blind comes along. We'll range bet him small on queen 7-5 two-tone. Lower left-hand table, I'll raise ace 7 suited first in from the cutoff using a 28% range. Get 3-bet pretty small, but not small enough. I'm going to come along again with this janky dominated type hand, king 10 offsuit. So I'll go ahead and fold that. Lower left-hand table on the ace 6-9 rainbow flop, I'll go ahead and range bet the big blind small. Upper left-hand table, raise middle position with ace 3. We got check raise on the queen 7-5 board. I'll fold my pocket fours. Upper right-hand table, the big blind comes along. I'll range bet him small with my aces on the 9-6 deuce rainbow. Eights against the middle position, gets under the gun open. I will go ahead and fold that. Interesting turn card on the upper right-hand table in that the aces are probably still good. I think I actually prefer to check these back even more so than hands like 9s, 10s, or jacks, just because they're a lot less vulnerable. And I don't need to bet all my overpairs. I think I'd rather check, as far as what the opponent should have, he should be 3-betting 10s or jacks plus out of that big blind like crazy. So pocket 10s and pocket aces are the same hand as far as the value goes. I think I'd rather check back my aces because it's a lot less vulnerable if I want to check back some overpairs and not others. And I can go ahead and value bet, bluff catch, value raise the river kind of thing. I think this actually is a good spot to value raise just because I have bluff raises in my range here as well. Any overpair, any 9x is going to be awfully suspicious and not buy it. So I'm going to go ahead and put in that small value raise with the aces. Could also have quad 6s that check back as a super strong trap. I could have made 5s full. Last hand, upper right-hand table, I'll raise ace-jack from under the gun using an 18% range. Recreational player comes along in the big blind. I get heads up with him on the king-jack 7 two-tone flops. I have second pair top kicker. I will go ahead and put in a small range bet on that board. And we take it down. And that was the last hand. So I'm going to sign off now and take a little break. Thank you for watching very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I sure enjoyed making it. Until next time, this is Charlie Murphy signing off.